You ever seen this fat boy run that fast in his entire life? Is it me or you? It's about to be you because it ain't going to be me. I will kick you and trip you and let you get bunched before me.
Soundstripe.
And welcome into another episode of Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast where if you're like us and you miss the days of packed movie theaters and movie stores, then this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Caleb Suggs. Joining me are my co-host, Dakota Lowry.
What's up, everybody?
And Ernest Ferguson.
Here's to swimming with bow-legged women.
And welcome in to our 50th episode. Who would have thought, guys? Who would have thought we'd made it?
I think there's 3 people in this podcast that wouldn't have thought, no, that ain't going to last 50 times.
It's cool how it worked out, too, because obviously there's 52 weeks in a year, but we took, I think, 2 weeks off, so our 50th episode is happening a year.
Yeah.
So this will release on Thursday, July 3rd. We released our first episode last year on July 4th. Happy pre-4th of July, by the way. So it's just nice how that works out, right?
It is.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
Ernie wasn't with us for the debut episode. We haven't
because
hired him yet. We had to go through a vetting process and everything else. And
y'all should have vetted yourself for what y'all rated Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to chalk that up to first podcast mistake. Don't want to aim the ball too high.
We have established that the first couple episodes, we were obviously trying to be more pretentious or whatever and be super critical because we did Beverly Hills Cop second and I gave it, what was it, a 7? I mean, that's
Something
crazy. That's not a 7. That's not a 7 movie. So I don't know what we were doing in the first 2 episodes, but hey, it was a learning process. We 50 episodes in, we're still learning.
Yeah. I mean, it's just my rating system is like fluctuating on how. I mean, the first one, like you said, okay, we're movie snobs, so I can't get this high score or anything like that. Then it became, oh well, then it's my pick, so I got to have mine high, like somebody else would around here. They're just kind of like figuring out how to rank stuff, then going back and look at stuff. I would like to point
out that both of you have given a movie a higher score than me, so I know you're trying to like give me a veiled insult there, but y'all have ranked movies higher than me. I just like to point that out.
Yes, I mean, you have 2 movies that are ranked tied for 33 that you gave a 9 for. Okay, so out of 50. You gave a 9 to 2 movies that are ranked 33, tied for 33. So I
stand by my.
Gosh,
there are a lot of people that like Major League that have
a 9.
I've listened to other podcasts where they've ranked it high like that. So yes, there are other people that like Major League. Just because you two don't, that doesn't mean there aren't other people that do.
Well, that's perfectly fine if you like it.
Con Air was probably too high. That was probably You know what? It is what it is. Sometimes we give high scores, but hey, it happens, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the crazy thing. Those 2 movies are. I think those are the only 2 movies where we all did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like, you did a 9, I did a 7.5, and Dakota did a 7. Both those movies.
But anyways, so it's our 50th anniversary. Not 50th anniversary. It's our 50th episode. Hopefully we make it to our 50th. Well, Ernie might not be with us by then.
Wow. Wow. Dang. Way to go dark there. Okay.
I know.
I hope he is, but I mean, what would you be? 101? 100?
For a 50 year? Yeah, I'd be 101 if we did it for 50 years.
That'd be 49 years from now. So
look, I'm gonna be honest with you. The way I eat, I might not be here either. if we're being honest with ourselves. But anyways, it's our 50th episode. And first, I do want to give, in all seriousness, I do want to give shout out to people that listen. We have close to 1,500 downloads between Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and then we also have our YouTube stuff. I don't know the stats on that one, but we have people listening on that too. So again, that may not seem like much, but we appreciate it because we thought that we would get like 3 to 5 listens an episode, the 3 being us, and then like Ferg's daughter and Dakota's wife, and that would be it. That's what we would get per episode.
No, so. And our biggest critic on what we miss, your dad.
Oh, my dad, yeah. So 6. We can count on 6 for each episode. But we've managed to average about 28 to 30 listens an episode, so we appreciate that. But anyways, it's our 50th episode, and Dakota had the pick this week. And he really did. Dakota. Well, we make fun of Dakota because some of the picks he's done over the course of this show, but he really nailed it with this one. I mean, this was really, I think, the perfect episode 1 because it's a 50th anniversary of Jaws. Which, by the way, our episode this week is Jaws, 1975's Jaws, and Dakota picked it because it's a 50th anniversary, so he thought it went well with the 50th episode. But it also works well because it's a 4th of July movie, and the big thing, though, I think, as I was watching this, and even though this is the first time I've seen it, but I'm wearing my 50th anniversary Jaws shirt, by the way, which I had before I watched the movie.
Well before.
But even though it was the first time I've seen it, I'm aware of the movie. I'm aware of the impact it has. And as I'm watching this, I don't know if we're here today doing this episode if it's not for Jaws. That may be a little heavy-handed to say, but this show is called Blockbusters. This was really the first ever summer blockbuster.
Mm-hmm. This is, summer blockbuster is the key because this is really the first time that a movie studio went all in for a summer movie because most times people were outside. They were at the beach, so they weren't coming to movie theaters. They would come to movie theaters around Christmas time. So this is truly where you get that summer blockbuster. And, it was based on a book that was a hot seller. They even waited. That originally was going to come out in Christmas, but they wanted to wait till the paperback of the book came out so people would have it at the beach with them, and that's what pushed Jaws to the summertime too. And it was and they also did something different that was unheard of is they put Jaws in 400 movie theaters. Yeah. And that was, again, unheard of, and so it was brilliant by everybody involved of how to set it up, how to approach it, how to, just put it out to the public.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that it was the first movie at the time that it came out, that it was the highest grossing movie. It was the first movie to ever gross more than $100 million in box office, and that beat out The Godfather, I think is what it said, at like 80 or 85 million or something like that. And then, of course, a couple years later, I think Star Wars was the only movie to beat it, or the movie to beat it afterwards. But still, like, in order for it to, to do that well in the middle of the summer, it was kind of crazy. And it's even, Ferg, we talked a little bit about it before, but in the version that I watched of this movie, it had an interview with Steven Spielberg beforehand. He said that this was only the second movie ever that he had ever recorded, and that they really weren't even sure that it was going to work or do anything well at the movies. And for them to put it out that big, I think, to me, kind of tells me of the faith that the studio had in Spielberg and his abilities to direct.
Yeah, how much? So it made $477.9 million at the box office. I mean, how much is that inflation adjusted for now? I mean, that would have to be.
Hold on.
That's its total too, but I mean, its first run. So we're just talking about the first time it was in the theaters. It made $260 million. Again, that is just in its first run. Opening day was $7 million. And again, it just blew people away.
Yeah. Well, you said 477?
Yes, 477. And that's obviously, like Ferg said, it's total. But, I look at it as Dakota's looking that up.
It's hold on, I gotta make sure I read this right here. 28.
One.
Yeah, I think I don't think I did this right. Hold on. You gotta give me.
Every single math test I ever took in school.
Here comes the abacus.
I put too many zeros in there. Hold on. $2.8 billion. $2.8 billion.
Did y'all ever take like a math test and like you work it out and you're doing everything? You're like, all right, I feel pretty good, and then it's like multiple choice, and you go and you don't see the answer that you got. So you're like, that was the closest.
Yes,
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. But yeah, 2.85 billion is.
You look at this. And we mentioned summer blockbuster, but just blockbuster in general. So, I mean, let's look at this. I mean, you have, obviously, The Godfather came out before this, and that's a massive movie, and it's like cinema, as Ernie likes to say, it's cinema. Mm-hmm. And there was other movies, you know, that had come out. I mean, this didn't win Best Picture in 1975. I think that went to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is obviously a big movie. But, and this is a great movie, too, but it just has that blockbuster feel. I mean, this is a movie that defined what movies would be for generations to come. I mean, so you have this in 75, then in 76 you have Rocky, then in 77 you have Star Wars. What this movie did for the movie theater, what it for years to come is, I don't know if you can put it into words, as I obviously can't because I'm struggling to do it.
And this is a different type of. This movie has a lot of cinematic things in this movie too. It's not just a blood and guts type of movie. You know, it does have that. Which again, how this movie is rated PG and not R.
The movie opens with a half-naked woman, going skinny dipping, who gets chewed up by a shark. We get to see a kid chewed up by a shark, and then Quint's death. I mean, I mean, they go all in on that. I mean, I know at this time there was only G, PG, and R. There was no PG-13, but someone's like, that's just parental guidance.
As long as you don't say the F word, it's going to be PG. It doesn't matter what you got there. So, but yeah, I mean, but this is there was a lot of shots, especially with the sheriff. You know, there was a lot of shots with him. That with Brody that Spielberg did of zooming in and zooming out, you know, that were just truly just gorgeous shots with it. So, I mean, this is, for lack of a better term, it could be a slasher film with a shark, you know, but just like, and you can see where Alien got its roots from in Jaws, where again, you're talking about building up tension, because there are a couple of scenes where I'm just like, just the music and then just silence and nothing but just ambience in the background, and you're just like, oh goodness, something's going to happen, even though it doesn't happen here or there. So again, it was really well made, and I'll be honest, this is the first time I've ever seen Jaws. So I mean, that shouldn't be a shock to you two that I haven't seen Jaws. But it really shows that despite Spielberg's big time movie career being really young, that you can tell the lore of Steven Spielberg, who's been working on making movies since he was 15 years old.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me that we're doing the 50th episode of a movie review podcast and none of the hosts have seen Jaws? That might hurt our credentials a little bit.
I've never seen it.
But we come in without preconceived notions. You know, that's one of those things like I mean, you have your favorite movies, Caleb, that we talked about, you know, and you have those. I've had mine. Like if we ever do the Breakfast Club or Weird Science or something like that, I'm going to have my preconceived notions. If my brother ever did Blade Runner, he'll choose that a lot different than the three of us would, because
Dakota has nothing because he's seen absolutely nothing.
Just the back of his eyelids is all he's saying. He's a replicant anyway. So, but this is, I mean, we're going to get a true thought from the three of us, since you said this is the first time for all three of us.
Yeah.
To watch this.
I've never seen it.
So I mean, yeah. So I've
seen like bits and pieces, but
yeah.
Although I will say that I felt like I'd seen a lot of the movie just from the Jaws episode of Psych. I know Dakota has not seen Psych, but Me and Ernie are both big psych heads, and having seen that episode, I was like, oh my goodness, they completely ripped off this entire movie in that episode.
Yes.
So I felt like I had seen part of the movie, but yeah, I mean, for actually watching the movie, this was my first time. Well, Jaws is a 1975 American thriller film directed by Steven Spielberg, based on the 1974 novel by Peter Benchley. It stars Roy Schneider as Police Chief Martin Brody, who, with the help of a marine biologist, Richard Dreyfuss, and a professional shark hunter, Robert Shaw, hunts a man-eating great white shark that attacks beachgoers at a New England summer resort town. Murray Hamilton plays the mayor, and Lorraine Gary portrays Brody's wife. The screenplay is credited to Benchley, who wrote the first drafts, and actor-writer Cara Gottlieb, who rewrote the script during principal photography. Shot mostly on location at Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts from May to October 1974, Jaws was the first major motion picture to be shot on the ocean and consequently had a troubled production, going over budget and schedule. As the art department to mechanical sharks often malfunctioned, Spielberg decided to mostly suggest the shark's presence, employing an ominous and minimalist theme created by composer John Williams to indicate its impending appearances. Spielberg and others have compared this suggestive approach to that of director Alfred Hitchcock. Universal Pictures released the film to over 450 screens, an exceptionally wide release for a major studio picture at the time, accompanied by an extensive marketing campaign with heavy emphasis on television spots and tie-in merchandise. Regarded as a watershed moment in motion picture history, Jaws was the prototypical summer blockbuster and won several awards for its music and editing. It was the highest-grossing film in history until the release of Star Wars 2 years later. Both films were pivotal in establishing the modern Hollywood business model, which pursues high box office returns from action and adventure films with simple, high-concept premises. Released during the summer in thousands of theaters and advertised heavily. Jaws was followed by 3 sequels, none of which involved Spielberg or Benchley, as well as many imitative thrillers. In 2001, the Library of Congress selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry. Okay, so I read that whole thing. Normally, I don't do that, but I read that whole thing because I thought it was important to really understand just what this. I mean, so I want to start with the production of it. There was a lot of issues with this movie when they were shooting it and then when they were filming it. And I was reading a little bit about it. And so to go through all of that and with all the mechanical sharks and everything, so to have as many issues as it did and still be that movie that introduced the heavy advertising and that you went all in on the theaters, which, as Ferg said, was unheard of at the time. Looking back on it now, looking at it now as 2020, you're like, oh, it made so much money, it was worth it. But at the time, that's a big gamble to take.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, because it's 1975, so the economy isn't like this at that time either. So, spending that much money, somebody had their head on the chopping block for this plan. Because it is unheard of to spend this much in advertising, to throw it in that many movie theaters too, and especially with somebody like with Steven Spielberg, who is, I mean, he is like number one director of all times for us, but he wasn't Scorsese, he wasn't Coppola, he wasn't those type of guys during that time. So, it took somebody a lot of convincing to be able to do that, but then it became a blueprint. It is a blueprint that's still followed today for that. You can tell when a company doesn't have confidence in the movie because you won't see advertising. That is a number one thing that opens up and you're like, okay, they don't have confidence in this movie because they're not advertising. Prime example of that was Disney Plus with Ironheart, the new TV show that's out. One, they kept on bumping it. 2, they pushed all the episodes to be like there's 6 episodes. And they made it on 2 days, and then they cut all sorts of advertising out of it because they didn't have confidence in it, and so that's a good telltale sign right there.
I will say this. First off, if anybody wants to go see this movie, it did get an IMAX release right now. So this movie is in the theaters right now for anybody who wants to go watch it there. But I really think with the mechanical shark messing up as much, I don't think this movie would have done as well as it did. Because the thing that I loved about the entire movie was that you didn't really even see the shark until about halfway through the movie. And even then, there was just a small little glance of it under the water. And then you really don't get like full out, like even seeing like the big shark scenes until the last, 15 minutes of the movie. And I think that did a really, really great job. That coupled with, the way that Steven Spielberg, like the scene that really stood out to me was the beach scene where, right after the first attack, but before the boy got attacked, or the scene where the boy gets attacked, that he's sitting there and you have the scenes where it cuts out to him looking out over the water, and then it cuts to him looking back on the beach, and then like all the different cuts between different things, and like the way he did that, like I think not seeing the shark and having it messed up really worked well for the movie, and really helped this movie a lot more than if we had seen it, throughout the whole thing.
Because for the most part, with the shark, I was okay with everything of the shark. The only part I didn't like about it is when the shark got on top of the boat, and it didn't look right. I didn't have a problem whenever they were filming it just at its face, where you could see its mouth open and stuff like that. It's 1975, that's fine, but it did look kind of campy whenever it was humping the boat and getting up on top of it. It didn't look that well. So it goes back to what I mentioned earlier about Alien using the blueprint of holding the xenomorph off. I mean, you got its presence. You got the music, which I'm sure we'll talk about John Williams in this movie, and so you hold until you bam want to show all of it, and it's more effective that way because again, the best thing that people have are their imaginations, and especially the first scene with the girl. I mean, other than getting dragged across the water back and forth, which was kind of funny looking, but I mean, you didn't know what was doing this. I mean, other than the movie poster, but you didn't see it. And not seeing this and not knowing, especially kind of like Alien in space, we don't know what's up there. Underwater, we don't know what's underneath there, And so I thought that was I thought was really good. Was like you said, holding off the reveal of Jaws to later.
And even getting into John Williams again, I had to go ahead and get into it.
I was waiting for Dakota to bring it up. I was like, surprised he hadn't yet.
I was getting there. But dude, like, I mean, be honest with me. Like, I mean, we've all been swimming in a pool when we were kids, and how many of you have ever did the whole da 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 da? I mean, you hear it at football games. You hear it everywhere.
Everybody knows that song.
Yeah,
even if you haven't seen that movie.
And it is so. Again, John Williams has made such an iconic soundtrack with this. It's such just a simple little, like, two notes, and then people screaming. And like, it is, John Williams knocked it out of the park again with another film score.
With all the things that John Williams has done, to me, this is the biggest impact he made on a movie. Because yes, I know like the Star Wars themes and things like that are iconic, but this built emotion. This built tension up. Anytime the camera went underwaters and you went here, you with the dun. I mean, the very opening of the movie, it has that dun, and it did more, I think, because if you take that away from this movie, I don't think it's as good of a movie. Whereas you could probably replace, some other music for Star Wars and Indiana Jones and things like that, which had iconic music for those characters. But this is something that really just, I mean, it built tension every time you heard those two notes. Again, tension, which, again, if you're not able to show this mechanical shark, then how do you build tension? Well, you do it from cutting back and forth. Like you said, that one scene, the beach scene, where they're cutting back and forth, that's creating tension because it's like going all over the place. You don't know where it's going. And then you add the music along with it. I mean, I can't tell you, I can't say enough just about the music that John Williams has for Jaws.
And even the scenes where it's not building tension, where you have the uplifting and the joyful things, it's not just the moments in the like when they're doing the build tension. But the other moments, where you have the other music that's playing in the background that really kind of helps set the tone for it. And it was, like I said, I 10 out of 10 on this film score.
Well, in the New England beach town of Amity Island, a young woman goes for a late-night ocean swim. An unseen force attacks and pulls her underwater. Her partial remains are found washed up on the beach the next morning. After the coroner concludes it was a shark attack, Amity Police Chief Martin Brody closes the beaches. Mayor Larry Vaughn persuades him to reconsider, fearing the town's summer economy will suffer. The coroner, apparently under pressure, now concurs with the mayor's theory that it was a boating accident. Brody reluctantly accepts their conclusion until a young Alex Kittner is killed at a crowded beach. A $3,000 bounty is placed on the shark, causing an amateur shark hunting frenzy. Quint, an eccentric local shark hunter, offers his services for $10,000. Consulting oceanographer Matt Hooper examines the girl's remains, confirming she was killed by an unusually large shark. So, as I watch this movie, the first thing that stands out to me is this is not a movie to me that it does not feel like it was filmed in 1975. As Ernie said earlier, this movie is beautiful. And part of me wonders how much better the movie is, which, okay, granted, a lot of movies are better this way, but for this movie in particular, since we're talking about it, how much better it is now that we have widescreen HD TVs. Because I'm think of all those shots, those wide shots of the ocean and just how good they look. Now you've compacted them into those little, so imagine people are watching this for the first time on VHS, compacting them in those little square TVs back in the day. Seeing this now in HD and widescreen, that's a whole different feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, using sky, space, ocean, having that wide camera range, like the IMAX type of look, it works, and and I think it's able to show some of the brilliance that Steven Spielberg does. Like, again, some of his best camera work. I think back to Saving Private Ryan, is the group of men walking with the sun behind, or the sun setting behind them. Again, a wide shot. That's just one of those things. If you can pull off a wide shot, and then other camera instances, like, again, the beach scene where the little kid was chomped up, but you have Rory Scheider, they turn around and he looks straight up, and they zoom in on him, but the background goes further back. That gets me every single time. I like that move, that way where I think they put the actor on a rolling cart, and they roll him forward to the camera, while somehow making the background just get further and further away, and it's just. I love it. Again, it is for a blood and gut movie. It has a lot of beautiful parts to it.
I don't know if y'all notice it at the beginning when the people are sitting around the campfire, and you're listening to the music, and there's you hear the person with the harmonica playing, but on the background there's a person playing a guitar, but there's absolutely no guitar played in that music whatsoever. The guy's just sitting there strumming a guitar, going at it, and then of course it goes into the opening scene. But
well, everybody was drunk and high. They were smoking some dope out there. And whoever runs to the beach just throwing their shoes all over the place and clothes all over the place, not knowing where it's going to land, if you don't think you're going to get eaten by a shark. Just say no, kids.
No.
Speaking of that, I guess, we've talked about how great this movie is and whatever thing it's done, but at the end of the day, it's still, a horror thriller film. And the opening scene just reminds me so much of Scream, when they're talking about the rules of surviving a horror movie. And he's like, you can never have sex. And here we are in the opening scene. We get the sexually promiscuous teenager, skirting off her clothes to go get into the ocean, and she bites the bullet. Those rules matter.
Yeah,
but the dude survives because he passes out on the beach.
Yeah,
and he was drunk too. So again, that was the other rule. So I guess not all. It's pick or choose.
Yeah,
that they didn't come up with the Scream rules for this movie yet. I did like how I guess quick the intro to the shark was. Like it wasn't just a lot of unnecessary buildup, if that makes sense. Sometimes it feels like in horror movies that, because and it feels like in every horror movie you're going to have some introduction into the killer or to the whatever the bad guy is. Whether it's their backstory or their first kill or whatever it is. But I liked how fast that they did this. I think it was like less than 10 minutes total time to where she was. It might not even been 10 minutes. It might have been like 5 minutes where, the shark attacked her.
Yeah, well, I thought, the opening credits started playing and the dun-dun started playing. I was like, oh, man, she's getting – I mean, I knew she was getting eaten. I was like, man, she getting eaten right now, like before the credits? But they let the credits roll, and then they had the Kumbaya dope fest, and then she got chomped. So, I mean, it is good that, again, that's a good opening scene of, oh, this is a carefree town, just people having a good old time, at dusk too, or dawn. I can't remember which, because it was kind of light outside. And again, I thought that was a good way to hide the shark also, was have it in the dark, have it at nighttime also.
Mm-hmm. And they also do a good job of let's be real. This movie is really two different movies. Mm-hmm. You have you have the first half of the movie, which takes place in the town, which is where they establish everything. You get the three main characters who are all expertly casted and acted by the Schneider, Shaw, and Dreyfuss. You get why they're not wanting to close the beaches and why this is such a big deal, because it's so important to this town to have the beaches open and have all this. And then you get the character, all their introductions. I love Quint. The introduction of him in the city hall meeting. Which
the nails on the chalkboard coming down.
I felt like I had seen it already because they completely reenact this scene in the Psych episode. But it's done so great here. Just his speech. I mean, he gives a couple speeches in this movie, and he knocks it out of the park with every which one. But like I said, it's two different movies, and the first half of the movie does an amazing job of setting up everything. So when the second half of the movie comes along, you know what's at stake.
Yeah, you're right. You have the beach part of the movie, and then you have the orca part of the movie, and the beach part of the movie does a great job. Like you said, the three actors in here played off each other. God, they played off each other well. And you have the good playing for Brody of, I hate water. I don't want to be near water. I'm afraid of water, or something like that. You have just the curiosity of Hooper, some rich boy who likes sharks and likes adventure and all this kind of stuff. And he has all this different knowledge.
When he first shows up and he sees all the people that are like getting on their boats, and he's like, they're gonna die.
Yeah,
made me laugh so much.
Yeah.
That's the one good thing that they kind of did. Spielberg does this too. I think does a good job of interjecting humor in a time of tension. And Quint's whole entire character was comedy until he started talking about the USS Indianapolis, and then, but then he was kind of back to singing sea shanties because he was drunk before they were going after the shark. So beginning, the introductory of all the characters, the building up of Brody too, as a guy who was as green as a gourd on the boat, and how he ended up kind of helping out at the end, and being productive. But it was really good. But Quint, the fingernails on the chalkboard. One, I don't think y'all are old enough to appreciate that. Maybe y'all are. I don't know. Maybe y'all been around chalkboards enough, but son, I had to take, when I saw the chalkboard in there, I had my two headphones in, I took earbuds in, I took one out because I knew the scene was coming because of Psych, and I knew the scene was coming. I didn't want it in both ears. And then all of a sudden, I was like, oh man. But again, he's just sitting there, he's popping those potato chips in his mouth, and he's talking to these people like they're idiots, for $10,000, I'll hunt him down, which is almost like his arc is almost like Moby Dick type of character arc.
Well, when a local fisherman catches a tiger shark, Vaughn declares the beach is safe. A skeptical Hooper dissects the shark and, finding no human remains inside its stomach, concludes the killer shark is still active. While searching the night waters in Hooper's boat, Hooper and Brody find the half-sunken boat of Ben Gardner, a local fisherman. Hooper dons a scuba suit and goes underwater to check the boat's hull and finds a large shark tooth embedded into it. He drops the tooth after encountering Gardner's severed head. Vaughn dismisses Brody and Hooper's assertions that a great white shark caused the deaths and refuses to enclose the beaches, allowing only increased safety precautions. On the 4th of July weekend, tourists pack the beaches. The shark enters a nearby lagoon, killing a boater and nearly killing Brody's son, Michael, who is hospitalized with shock. Brody then convinces a guilt-ridden Vaughn to hire Quint. So again, this movie is 1975, but here we are 50 years later. Things aren't really changed. The rich people are still only worried about their pockets. I love we got the scene where they're on that I don't know what you call it, raft ferry, where they drive the car onto it.
Yeah.
And he's gonna close the beaches, and then the mayor tells him no, and he's like, well, I have to. This doctor said it was a shark attack, and then basically he's like, oh, I was mistaken, and you can tell they've paid him off. Like, look, we have to keep these beaches open. So now he's changing his story, but I didn't understand So we get the 4th of July scene, and the beaches are packed. Nobody's in the water, but the beaches are packed, and he's so worried. Get in the water, get in the water. What does it matter? They're there.
That's what I couldn't figure out too.
See, I kind of
you're making your money. All the people are there. You're not going to make more money if they're there's no concession stands in the water.
I think it's one of those things where if people are driving up on the ferry or whatever to the beach, and then they don't see people in the water having fun or having a good time, then the stigmas or the story's true. Maybe that's the only thing I could really come up with. But I was kind of in the same boat when I first saw it, that I was like, I don't really get it. The people are there.
I think it's long-term effect, where if you have a 4th of July where people just come to the beach but don't get into the water, then they'll find some other place that they can go where they can get a beach and go into the water and feel safe. That's the only thing I could think of. But I was thinking that too. Hey, you need to take your grandkids out there in the water. You need to do that. And you can see both of them. They're I guess it's grandma and grandpa, maybe it's mom and dad. I don't know, but they both had the kids on the float. And, we're just kind of okay, we're going to be the first ones out here to get bunch of, how are you, Mr. Shark? Type of thing.
So the 4th of July beach scene is after the little boy gets killed, but they catch the tiger shark, so then they open the beaches back up. So how many days is this after the boy? Maybe a couple?
No, I think they said it was June 29th. So it's 5 days.
Okay, so it's 5 days, something like that. So then we get the other boater that gets killed. Then they're on the dock, and the mother of the little kid is there. Now, granted, I mean she has a right to be upset, but it's 5 days later. Why is she in funeral garb? Just walking up. Why are you wearing this black veil? What are you doing?
Maybe she's just still in mourning and she wants to wear black, but she slaps the sheriff instead of slapping the mayor.
Yeah.
Which
I can see from her perspective that it would be his fault. I mean, he technically, in her eyes, he controls what the beaches. I mean, it's not his fault, but
she also doesn't see that he tried to close the beaches.
But I did so obviously people think about the boat scene. We think about the last half of the movie on the Orca. The boat scene where Hooper and Brody are out there by themselves, and then him getting out in the scuba gear, and that's a pretty intense scene too. No way.
The jump scare
got me. I was sitting in the front seat of my truck watching this movie, and when the head came around, oh man, I about went out the door. I jumped pretty high.
But I like how they built up different things that were going to be used up in the climax of it. Whenever Brody was looking at the book of something about sharks, that there was a picture of a shark ramming into a boat. So you had that because that's what Jaws does there. Then also the two fishermen that were going to go hunt down the shark early. It was at night, and they were on the pier, and the pier gets ripped out, like how the shark pulls the boat. So they had a bunch of different stuff like that where, over and over again where, okay, we're showing you what the shark can do, so, but not like in your face type of thing, but, it shows you that you're going to see this later. And also the 4th of July one where you go from everybody thought that it was in the ocean, but it was in the pond. That shows that you're not working with don't have a dumb shark. You have, you have a pretty smart shark, and so, and also the shark ate the boat that one kid was on, I think, or that Hooper's kid was on. So again, there's another foreshadowing of later on of what the shark was going to do.
But you also get a couple of so you get there was two things that really stood out to me. Once you get that humor interjection where Brody comes out and he's yelling at his kid to get out of the boat, get off the water or whatever, and the mom's just like, no, let him, he's a kid, let him up there, his birthday's tomorrow or whatever. And then she turns around and opens the book up, and it's the shark biting the boat, and she immediately is telling him to get out of the boat. It kind of made me laugh, but I think this kind of also, because they haven't, to this point, they still haven't shown the actual shark, and I think this kind of builds up to, like, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's got to be a pretty big shark if it's eating human beings, And then they catch the tiger shark, and Hooper even says, yeah, this could be the shark, like it could definitely eat a human, but it's probably not the shark we're looking for. He says, I'm not saying it isn't the shark, but it could be the shark. But then you get to the scene with the dock where he pulls the dock down, and you realize, oh, this is a pretty big shark. If it's able to break a dock that's big in half, and to drag it out into the middle of the water, that's a pretty big shark. And it's kind of building, like you said, building that tension, but building that lore about, what are we really working with here? How big is this thing? How big actually is this thing?
And to me, one of the best scenes in the movie, and we've mentioned it already, is the 4th of July. The 4th of July scene where he's like, don't blow the whistle, and the lifeguard blows the whistle, and you just have pure chaos. And again, the quick camera work that's going from different place to different place, and kids getting just like adults going right over kids in the water, just going right over them. It was just one of those things where it was just, and you're like, okay, this is going to happen on this beach, because again, they took the camera under the water too a couple of times, and you're like, oh man, this is going to happen. Then of course they throw you the curve and make it go over to the pond, which I thought the little brother was going to eat it, because whenever Brody looked at his wife and she says, I've got whoever, I got the little kid or whatever, and the little kid yelling at his brother, I want to ride the boat. I'm like, oh man, Jaws about to get the little brother, but no, we just got petrified. Little boy, older brother.
Yeah, he got the
it could have been worse. At first, I thought because they look so similar, I thought that the kids that did the hoax with the shark fin that started it all, I thought that was his kids at first.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that's pretty awful. And then I honestly, it was a very good sense of relief to find out that wasn't his kids, because I think that would have been way too much. That would have been too much on him, who was already suffering with enough guilt himself. Speaking of guilt, real quick, so I mean, obviously this was out of a book, but just some things I heard about the book. I'm glad did you know that in the book, Hooper was banging Brody's wife?
What? I did not know that.
That's why he brought the wine over that night.
Spielberg directly took that out of the book. I was like, good call, Steven. That would have felt really weird and not wouldn't feel like it felt. But anyways, despite initial tension between Quint and Hooper and Brody's fear of the ocean, the three head out to sea on Quint's boat, the Orca, to hunt for the shark. As Brody lays down a chum line, the shark suddenly appears from behind the boat. Quint, estimating it is 25 feet long and weighs 3 tons, harpoons it with a line attached to a flotation barrel, but the shark pulls it underwater and disappears. So we're getting into the second half of the movie that I mentioned earlier. I did like how, because I think if you're someone like me who doesn't really have any idea about fishing, especially like, well, just fishing in general, but especially like shark hunting or anything, I think you can be naive and be like, oh, like how dangerous is it? So I did like the tension that they built as they're going out onto the boat. You see that with his wife coming in. I mean, they're making making you understand that this is something very dangerous that they're about to go be doing. And so I did like that. But of course, we get there, we get out, and he's doing the chum line. We get the always iconic line of "You're going to need a bigger boat." Again, as someone who's not seen the movie, I'm very well aware of that quote. I think a lot of people are. And anytime, I think it's fun when you can go back and watch a blockbuster for the very first time, and even though it's an older movie and you know things about it, when you hear that line, it just gives you that great feeling. Still, even though you know it's coming, it's still pretty cool to hear.
And then he kept on saying it. He said it like 3 more times. We're gonna need another bigger boat, right? But again, here are 3 in this section that we've talked about. 3 shots. First shot when they were leaving the boat, and you had the camera that was shooting the boat leaving through the shark's jaw or teeth. That was a great shot. Then whenever Quint is sitting there and he sees the fishing line the reel start to slowly move, and he looks down on it. I was like, man, that's a great look too. And then you need a bigger boat, but Brody's initial reaction when he sees Jaw, he flips his head around and he sees Jaws, and you see his eyes. Roy Scheider, he was the boring one of the 3, but man, he was good in this too. And that reaction right there was really, really good.
Sorry, the audio in my headphones just kind of went crazy. There was a lot in this, and I really like the fact that they still built that. They built that tension between Quint and Hooper. What was the thing he was getting to put on the barrel?
A tracker. I thought it was a tracker is what he was doing, or maybe he was trying to get information about but which it had no payoff though, because
it didn't really pay off.
And maybe he got put on the cutting room floor or something like that, but there was no payoff. I thought it was like a tracker. But again, he had nothing else to track him with, so I'm not sure exactly what it was.
Yeah. I mean, if this was a modern day movie, I would assume it was something like that. But I mean, it's 1975. It's not like you have portable. It's not like you have computers in the first place, but it's not like you have a mobile computer at all. So I didn't really understand what that was. But it still kind of showed that that Hooper was wanting to do his own thing, and Quint is like, hey, if you will just listen to me, I know how to find these things. I know how to get it done. And, and it just, I really like the fact that they built that tension, and then all the way up to the last shot, all the way up to where he's, the sharks almost pass. He's at the last second to pull the trigger, and he finally gets the knot pulled. And I'll be honest with you, I was 100% expecting him to be tangled up in the rope somehow and get pulled in with the barrel. That's what I was expecting here.
That same thing later on with Hooper, whenever Brody had done the ropes and he got hooked he got snatched by the ropes that were on the barrels. I thought, oh man, he's about to get cut in half. Yeah. But I did like the tension between the 3, because you had Quint, I'm killing this thing. No matter if I don't make it back to shore or not, I'm killing this thing. I mean, like when he blows the engine up, Then you have Hooper, who's like, I want to see. I want picture. I need you. He's yelling at Brody, to get to where so he can get the dimensions of it, or he can take that picture so he can show, how big it actually is. And then Brody's just like, I want this dead, and I want us to get back as safe as possible. We need to call people, and I like that tension between the 3, because again, like I said, Quint is Moby Dick. He is going after his white whale. He is going. It doesn't matter if it kills him or not, which it did. Spoiler alert, but he is doing that. And so I liked how not all 3 of them did not have the same goal going in on this mission.
Well, at nightfall, Quint and Hooper drunkenly exchange stories about their assorted body scars. One of Quint's is a removed tattoo. He reveals that during World War II, he survived the sinking of the USS Indianapolis, during which sharks killed many U.S. sailors. The shark returns, ramming the boat's hull and disabling the power. The men work through the night repairing the engine. In the morning, Brody attempts to call the Coast Guard, but Quint, obsessed with killing the shark without outside assistance, smashes the radio. After a long chase, Quint harpoons the shark with another barrel. The line is tied to the stem cleats, but the shark drags the boat backwards, swamping the deck and floating the engine compartment. As Quint is about to sever the line to save the boat's transom, the cleats break off. The barrels stay attached to the shark. To Brody's relief, Quint speeds the orca towards shore to draw the shark into shallower waters, but the damaged engine fails. So we already talked about the first like kind of speech moment we get from Quint in the city council meeting, but this one is this one's pretty intense, and we get and by the way, I love, I've read a lot about World War II. There's always that joke about when you get to a certain age, you either become really into World War II or you get really into grilling, and I don't know how to grill. So, but this right here, I wasn't aware of this. So hearing this story and then like going and researching it afterwards and hearing him talk about it, this was a pretty big deal, and it had me hanging on every single word that he said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can see where he was coming at. That's why when you go back to his shack back in Amity, and he has all those shark jaws, all across the walls and up in his shack, and it makes a lot more. At first, it was just like, oh yeah, he's just a commercial fisherman. He's just hunting these things down. That's all he's doing, But no, there is a reason, this specific reason that he is going after sharks.
Yeah, and I think it really kind of shows the range that he has. Just from being able to go from that, more comedic, drunken, singing the shanties and doing these things, and his what is it? What's the one of these things about the French ladies? I didn't write it down, but anyways, it is. But I really like this scene between the three of them. The only thing that I wish they would have added to it is I wish Brody would have been able to explain more. Because I know he doesn't have any like sailor stories, but he does kind of lift his shirt up one time and look at a scar and is just like, okay, it's there, but then you don't get an explanation as to why he's afraid of the water, or why he doesn't like the ocean, or anything like that. He's just kind of sitting there observing that, and I really wish that they would have added more from Brody in this scene to kind of show that camaraderie building between the three, not just Quentin Hooper, but all three of them.
He's scared of the water because he read Jaws, the book. It terrified him.
He's living out his worst book. But I also did like is it it's the next morning when the shark returns back, and he's out there chubbing the waters, and you can see all of them just getting exasperated, and like this is just a futile attempt, and this is just pretty worthless. But then immediately turn around and seeing the barrel show back up, and even like you said, like you mentioned, the building the tension and I seriously thought dude was about to get chopped in half.
Man, it's so intense because, and I'll admit, I'm naive. I mean, going into this, I'm like, okay, so they're out in a boat. Like, what really can happen? Seeing this shark basically just trash this boat it's a lot to take in.
And again, they built it up because you had that he's attacking at night and the lights go out. I was like, oh man, no, Yeah, I'm in this boat. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Who knows where Quint is actually taking us, And then this thing's hitting the boat and knocks the lights out too. Man, no, thank you. And again, they built up, like whenever he harpoons the shark with the 3 different barrels, and then there's silence. There's no music. There's just the water sounds, and that's it. And I'm like, dude, that is perfect. Again, and it's not the first time that they've used silence. They used silence early on in one of the beach scenes too, and it was just like silence. And I'm like, oh man, that's using nothing to build tension. And it was fantastic.
But I also like the fact that while they are building tension in this, they give you breaks in it. You know, they get like they kind of build the tension up a little bit, and then they kind of just relax for a minute. You can sit there, okay, they're just sitting around getting drunk and talking or whatever, and then they build the tension up a little more. You see the guy about to get chopped in half. They've got the two barrels on them, you know, and like that's when he really damages the boat. And then they sit back. You get to chill out for a minute, and then it just there's breaks in between the moments of intensity to give you a moment to relax and wait for the next moment to come again,
which gets you even more. I mean, if you're just hunkered down, you know, I know this is coming type of thing, but then you just kind of, oh man, then you got to rev back because they were on the boat for what, half the movie at least.
That's what.
It's half the movie. Yeah.
It's literally the movie's like 2 hours and 10 minutes. When I say it's split in half, it's like almost exactly split in half between the beach and the boat.
And so you need to have that. You need to have the nighttime speeches. You have to have the Brody figuring out what to do on the boat. You have to have the conversation, the conflict between Hooper and Quint. Also, you have to have the first kind of slight reveal of Jaws. But again, so you have to have all this stuff up, or else it's like running a sprint. You can't run a sprint, you know, for 50 minutes. You know, you got to treat it like a marathon where you have to be able to pace yourself. And again, the movie is well paced. Again, for a 2-hour movie, and again, half of and even in the first half of the movie, the tension rose up, action, then it calmed down, tension, action, calmed down, and it did that. But it wasn't necessarily a roller coaster where the downtimes were awful. Because, the USS Indianapolis speech, man, that might be one of the best part. It may be the best part of the movie. If not, it's definitely one of the top 3 of the movie, and that's a downtime, especially when they start trading all these different injuries. And Hooper says my biggest injury, and he points to his heart, talks about heartbreak, you know, and then he just starts whatever that laugh is that Dreyfuss was doing. You know, it was just that was funny in itself. So again, that was that good time that as an audience you can kind of go, okay, breathe before this next action comes up. So yeah, that was very good in that way.
As the boat takes on water, the trio attempt a riskier approach. Hooper suits up and enters a shark-proof cage, intending to lethally inject the shark with, what is that? Strychnine? Via a hypodermic spear. The shark attacks the cage, causing Hooper to drop the spear. While the shark destroys the cage, Hooper escapes to the ocean bottom. The shark leaps onto the boat's stern, subsequently devouring Quint. Trapped on the sinking vessel, Brody thrusts a scuba tank into the shark's mouth and, climbing onto the crow's nest, shoots the tank with a rifle. The resulting explosion kills the shark. Hooper resurfaces, and he and Brody paddle back to shore, clinging to the remaining barrels. It does an amazing job setting up just how dire their situation is, because when you have Quint go to Hooper and be like, what can these tools of yours do? Because they're modern things, and you can tell the entire time they've been out here, he's like, I don't want to resort to this stuff. This is not how I do things. So when he himself goes to Hooper and be like, what can you do? It does that in itself does a masterful job of portraying just how dire the situation is.
Yeah, it did. I mean, and then also the dire situation too of the boat. I mean, especially Brody that's on the lookout. You know, and you have that slow sinking. And before that, though, the shark cage getting absolutely, ravaged. Which I'm like, okay, this is the one part of the movie where cynical Ernie's like, so the shark drew blood of Hooper, but he doesn't want to chase a meal. He just wants to eat this metal instead. I'm like, go chase Hooper and eat him. Yeah. I mean, Hooper should have been dead,
But when they dropped him in that water, though, and you see the shark off in the distance, that injected fear into my body. Just thinking of myself in that situation, oh my goodness, it made me so scared.
This is one of the reasons. Again, we've already stated, I've never seen this before. But this is one of the reasons why, if Ernie ever goes to the beach, he doesn't get in the water, because if seaweed goes by my feet and I'm in like 1 inch of water, you're seeing Fat Boy run back on the sand. I'm just getting away from that water.
He's Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible, and back.
100%.
Nobody knows who Terry Ferguson is.
Everyone for themselves. I'm booking to go. I'm out of here. See ya. You never see this fat boy run that fast in his entire life. Is it me or you? It's about to be you, because it ain't going to be me. I will kick you and trip you and let you get much a bunched before me.
Oh, God.
So don't go out in the forest with me either, because if a bear's chasing us, I'm kicking one of y'all in the legs, and I'm going to outrun y'all while y'all are sitting there suffering.
Okay, so no Blockbusters podcast beach trips or camping trips with Ernie Ferguson. We've established that.
They talk about fight or flight. First it's going to be fight, then I'm flighting. So I'm fighting y'all, then I'm flighting. So that way they can. I mean, because I'm a full course meal for somebody to eat on. So I need one of y'all's little tiny butts to get bunching before it gets to me. Maybe he'll be full.
Oh my Lord.
But back to the movie you were saying.
One of the things though also is, you have the baseball bat coming out. I truly thought that Quentin was going to hit Brody. 100% was going to knock him out. And in my diabolical mind, I'm like, oh, he's going to turn Brody into chum and get the shark that way, but he just nails. And then you have Brody absolutely losing it too, but again, we know me in quote unquote gore, but Quint's screams last longer than it probably should have for me. And then just the blood coming out of his mouth, was just
it's maybe a little bit longer than it needed to be, but he sells it
100%.
Yes, I mean it sometimes, like, I think we all, even I, being the kind of more, well, I guess me and Dakota both being more horror guys than you are, Ernie. I think even both of us would say we don't really like gore that much, because especially these days, too many movies do gore just for the sake of gore. Yeah. It may have been a tad much, but it served a purpose, and it did very well.
So, again,
I really didn't think he was going to die either. I thought they were all three going to make it.
Yeah, I thought he was going to do one of these. Oh, I'm going to put my feet on his top of his mouth and the bottom of his mouth. I'm going to hold him there for a second. No. He was an appetizer for sure.
It surprised me when he got chopped up like he did.
And again, this is rated PG. Just with that scene. I mean, not to mention,
he didn't say the F word while he was dying. There's no
he
didn't.
No, he didn't. But that also reminds me of like the kid's death scene when the shark bites him. I don't know how much. There's no way that kid had that much blood in his body, because that was just like, it was just. I was like, oh my goodness! It's like The Shining, where the blood just came off the walls.
I don't know. I don't know how parents were in 1975, but can you imagine being like 7 to 10 and go to see this movie because the parents are like, "Oh, it's PG. It'll probably be okay. We'll be there with him." And then you see a kid your age just get eaten up like that.
That's the thing nightmares are made of.
Well, I mean, I can't imagine this, because I know how much this movie has affected people going to not just the beach, but I've even heard people talk about being in swimming pools.
I'm like, it's got to be crystal clear where I'm seeing everything. No, thank you. Again, beach. Other than, I'm pasty white, and that doesn't go well with sun and sand anyway. So, I would be truly a beacon for some big old fish to come say, human stick, let me go eat him, type of thing.
But going back to this movie, like, I know we've talked about the tension being built the whole way through, but this is the moment where you get the peak. You reach the mountaintop. You get to the epitome of it all. And, really, I mean, honestly, I thought Hooper was dead. Mm-hmm. But realistically, being at the bottom of the ocean, he was the safe one in all of this. And, I
mean, he was the smartest. He might have been a little bit of a coward because he stayed there literally until the very end. But,
very end.
He was the smartest.
He was the smartest. He went into the water the water. I mean, he's already seen what this shark can do, and he's like, let me put me in this safe cage of this huge shark. Yeah, I'm like, no, but again, that was him though. He loved the chase of the sharks. He loved the information of the sharks. That goes back to what his purpose was, and that was.
Yeah, but even then, getting into right after Quint's death, with that whole thing, and you thought, okay, well, like the shark's satisfied, he's going to leave. But then immediately when he goes into like the captain's quarters or whatever it is, the room there, and the shark comes through the wall immediately.
Yeah,
that right there, I think was kind of like, okay, you're here, you're at the top of the movie, this is it. And he finally gets the oxygen tank into his mouth, and the grabbing the rifle, the climbing to the crow's nest, and then the shots. I like the fact that it took him more than one shot to get to the tank, and just trying to find that perfect shot. I really like that all the way up to the last second that you're really building that tension, and I mean you're within 5 minutes of the end of the movie at this point, and it's he shoots it and the thing goes everywhere, but you finally get to sit back and be like, okay, like you feel like just like with them, but even then, like they're in the middle of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
There's no radio. There's no backup. There's no, there's nobody coming,
And there's blood all in the water. We've already established there's a tiger shark out there too. I'm like,
cynical me was like, what if the other shark just like popped up?
Yeah, I'm about to say y'all about to be. That was just the main course. Now y'all two about to be dessert. And I'm thinking also, I'm like, holy crap, those guys' legs are got to be worn out to be able to kick. I'm like,
we don't know how far they are from land.
No, they don't know how far they are.
Oh no, you can. I'll tell you, I've been deep sea fishing, and you could see the shore in that shot that they're in. But dude, like even if you could see the shore like that, they're like 5 miles off the coast. It's not like they're that close to the island or whatever it was.
All right, well that brings us to the end of the movie. Guys, anything to add here?
When we talked about this, it's good. I like seeing how movies influence other movies. So I remember hearing about it when we did Alien, how Alien was just Jaws in space. But when watching Jaws, you're like, man, I can directly see, where it affects it, where it influenced it, and it's just it's kind of cool that again we're doing this again 50 shows in, but that we're kind of seeing, hey, there that influenced that, so I liked it.
Anything else?
Not
all right,
for me.
So I guess we will move on to the rankings then. Ernie, Dakota, which one of you want to kick us off?
You can go ahead.
I'll volunteer you. That's fine. As I said, I mean, I have avoided watching this movie for quite some time because I am a movie wuss. So, and I will admit that. But in seeing this, the only thing that really truly dates this movie is haircuts and outfits. But the movie itself, again, we talked about 2 different movies, and both of them had their tensions, both of them had their action, but both sides had their great movie shots. And I kept on trying to figure out why this one was like high on everybody's list. And the more and more we talked about this, the more and more that we thought about it, I'm like, okay, I can kind of see why. So for me, I am going to give this a 9.5.
All right, Dakota.
Yeah, all around, I knew this was a great movie, and while I never actually sat down and watched it throughout, I do remember my mother or my parents watching it when I was a kid. Anyways, I remember parts of this movie from when I was young, and I remember them always telling me that it's a really good movie. I just never actually sat down to watch it. But man, like throughout the whole movie, I know you talked about I love the fact that it's like you said, two separate movies here, where you have the first half of the movie that's building the lore of the shark, building the lore of who he is, and then the second half of the movie, you actually get, the actual interaction with the shark, and you see his head popping up and things like that, and it was, and in my opinion, greatly done. I don't think they show too much of the shark. I don't think they show too little of the shark. And then, like we mentioned throughout this thing, the actors did a great job in this. John Williams did an awesome job with a very iconic, and probably the most iconic film score that he's done from any movie ever. And it just all around, I think this movie was really great. Yeah, there was a couple things that I wish they had done differently. And I think that's going to be the big reason that I'm not going to give this movie a 10. I know I gave Saving Private Ryan a 10 out of 10, but I legitimately didn't find anything wrong with that movie that I didn't like. There was only a couple of little things with this movie but that I didn't like, and I think because of that, I'm going to give it a 9.75.
Yeah, I mean, not to harp on the same things y'all said, but I mean, this movie really just proves why Steven Spielberg is probably the greatest filmmaker of all time. The thing maybe y'all didn't mention, the three stars of the movie, Schneider, Schraw, and Dreyfuss. I mean, they're just so amazing together. And I guess Schneider is technically the star of the movie, but they're all three there, and they all three have their moments. And everything about this movie is great. But I think you have the movie, and then you have the impact of the movie. And when I look at this, I think this is a 9.75 movie. But when I think about the impact of it, what it did for movies, and I'm such a big movie person, and that's why we're doing this podcast. And just when I can watch this and I can see everything that this movie has done, what it's done for the industry, to me, that makes me bump it up more. So I am going to give it a perfect 10 out of 10. All right, so that's a 10 from me, a 9.75 from Ernie, and a 9.75 from Dakota, and a 9.5 from Ernie. That averages out to a 9.75. I think I already know this, but Ernie, where does that put us on our list?
That ties us at number 1 with another Spielberg movie, Saving Private Ryan. So Jaws and Saving Private Ryan are tied at number 1.
All right, so seems fitting. Our 50th episode, we get a movie that ties for number 1. I texted Dakota after I watched this. It's like, I can't believe that I had not seen this movie until I am 29 years old. But better late than never, and I'm very glad that I have seen it now, especially now that I can wear this shirt and it not be stupidly ironic. But yeah, so all right, so tied for number 1 with another Spielberg, which again, I guess that just proves why he's I guess this podcast does consider him the best director, filmmaker. Probably
I
so.
definitely do.
Yeah, so
dude,
all Spielberg groupies here.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Who did the film score for? So John Williams did the film score for Saving Private Ryan as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is our seventh John Williams film that he's, and the only ones that weren't Spielberg was Star Wars, The Patriot, and Superman. So yeah, like I said, that's our seventh.
I mean, he did E.T., he did Jurassic Park. Did he do Indiana Jones?
Yes.
He did Indiana Jones? Okay, I couldn't remember exactly, but so, I mean, yeah. I mean, John Williams is John Williams. Everybody does that.
Yeah.
But anyways, all right, so a 9.75, that ties it for number 1. If you would like to see that full rankings list, you can go to our website, podpage.com/classic blockbusters. That's podpage.com/classic blockbusters. You can find our full rankings list on there. You can find our individual scores that we give for the movies. You can find some about us, all our episodes, and plenty of other stuff. Ernie does that. We appreciate that. You can find us on Facebook, Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast, or you can find us on Twitter/X at BlockbusterPod1. We are streaming every week, every Thursday on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and also on YouTube. And again, we would just want to thank each and every one of you. Here we are a year later, almost a year exactly later when we started this, and we're still going, and we're doing, compared to what we thought, we're doing very well. So we appreciate everybody that has listened to us, and hopefully we'll be back here a year later. If we don't have any weeks off, it'll be probably won't be 100 when if we're back here a year later, but you never know, we might have to take some time off. So, but anyways, we hope to see you again next week and also a year from now. And speaking of next week, Ernie, it's your pick, right?
Yes. And again, take a wild left turn here, but we are going Robert De Niro again, and we are going 1988's Midnight Run.
Are we going to pick a Robert De Niro movie that all of us really enjoy? Because the ones we've picked so far have not been have been kind of mid.
This is one of those that it's a comedy action. So it's one of those he took all these gangster roles, and so now he's like kind of going against it. And it has it was 90 something on. It was 95 on Rotten Tomatoes.
95%, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, and it's De Niro. So I kind of like a funny De Niro, especially when he's kind of a tough guy type of thing. I like a funny De Niro. So it's a movie I haven't seen either. Now it's probably a big thing also. If you've ever listened to.
Are we going to do two movies back to back that none of us have seen? That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this was the first movie that we've done that none of us had seen.
No, we've done other ones.
We did one. We did Lost in America.
Sure did one.
That is a good point. That is a good point.
And there is
so
a reason. There is a reason that none of us watched that.
Hey, it's our 50th anniversary. I mean, 50th
anniversary.
50th episode. We have to bring up the greatest hits, right? Or I don't know if that's the greatest hits. That's like the bloopers.
Yeah. Well, somebody's got to be last. So that is definitely it.
Yes, on the list of rankings, there's all these movies, and then you just have Lost in America. This is like down there. Ernie color codes it on our great spreadsheet that he does that has like a bajillion tabs, and it's got the poop brown color.
Yeah, it stands out in the midst of all the other purples and. Well,
you got a nice little Dakota Lowry right there next to it as the person depicted.
So it's at a 2.75. The next closest is Highlander at a 6.08. So sometimes, and that's that may be one of my things like coming up soon is we talk about Dakota having a theme or something like that. I may try to find again if I can find one.
I don't know if that's a goal to like try to be down there with Dakota. I don't know if that's a goal.
Hey, that's low. Okay,
hurtful.
Yeah,
but truthful.
It is not.
Yeah, you're down there. Yes, it is. It's on the spreadsheet. You're down there by your lonesome.
One movie is down there by itself. One singular movie.
Well, I mean, I already don't got one down there.
You have the other movie that's rated in straight to video by one of us.
Yeah, well, it's still higher than 6. Ain't got no poop brown color next to it.
Hey, what was it that we said about the 50th episode where we go back and change one of our ratings?
We might have to do that. Just say like there's one movie and only one movie that you can change the score that you have. What, you're going to change Lost in America to a 10? Is that what you're going to do?
No, I'm going to change Highlander to a 2.
No, see, that's why I don't want to do that, because y'all going to be doing something out of spite just for no reason. Yeah. No. He just admitted it, so don't sit there and be like, no.
That was a joke. Calm down.
Me, no, but like, like there's some things like, again, Raiders of the Lost Ark, I'm like, that can't, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I love Four Weddings and a Funeral, but there's no way that Raiders of the Lost Ark should be tied with that. There's no way that Goodfellas should be above Raiders of the Lost Ark. And then also just having Beverly Hills Cop at 38. That still makes me. I'm like,
look, okay. we were pretentious snobs the first couple episodes. It happens.
I'm telling you, if I seriously had one to go back and change, I really do think it would be Goodfellas.
Yeah, that's
I
probably
genuinely, that would probably be my one.
That's one of those where, I rated it because, that's where it should be.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's what we both fell into, is where we were like, I guess I give it a 9, but I don't think I should have.
All right, so rehashing some stuff on our 50th episode, but before we get to going too long, guys, anything to add before we close up?
Nino Brown would not be in Jaws because Nino Brown would not be anywhere near the ocean. So I just wanted to. This may be the first movie that I'll say that Nino Brown would not be in because he would be too much smart to be near that dumb shark.
Thank Lord for that, because it might not have been a 10.
Might not have been a 10. There it is.
Well, guys, we appreciate everybody that's listened to us, and as Ernie always says, we'll see you at the movies.